My data analyst job actually replaces two critical finance roles. Welcome back to Reddit Court Files, where we pull real stories from Reddit and put them on trial. Today's case comes from our Antiwork. Quick note, nothing in this video is legal advice. We're storytellers, not lawyers. Now, let's get into it. Our story begins with a Reddit user, fresh into a new role as a data analyst. It should have been a straightforward transition, building dashboards, working with data models, utilizing BI tools, and managing key performance indicators. A modern, analytical job description through and through. But almost immediately, the subtle signs began to emerge that this wasn't the job they signed up for. Initially, it was a quiet suggestion to absorb the undocumented work of one retiring finance person. Then the scope expanded, revealing it was actually two departing individuals, both leaving at the end of June, and both critical to the company's reporting functions. Our narrator, still less than a month into their new position, started doing exactly what they were hired for. They built and shared a legitimate data analyst deliverable, a validated, interactive dashboard with cleaner metrics and better visuals directly aligned with their job description. The leadership's response? A directive to pause all dashboard work. The real priority, they were told, was the core transition work. Fair enough, the narrator thought, understanding the need for continuity. They explained they'd already created a long working document on the departing person's processes and would continue to meticulously document the handoff. But the response was chillingly explicit. Make sure as you document it, you are also able to reperform it. The result is a transition. It wasn't about knowledge retention anymore. It was about full absorption. Here's the catch. This wasn't just one report. It was an entire ecosystem of manual processes, legacy files, system extracts, reconciliations, workarounds, approvals, dependencies, and countless judgment calls that existed solely within people's heads and old spreadsheets. The person leaving had years of context. Our narrator had less than a month. Their job description said, data analyst, not become the owner of multiple departing people's complex that undocumented work in under a month. The situation quickly escalated from two departing people to what looked suspiciously like the work of four separate roles being collapsed into a single salary. This included their original data analyst role, the retiring person's work, the other departing person's critical reporting, and even additional cost and reporting responsibilities from other areas. These weren't overlapping tasks. They were separate functions with distinct contexts, review requirements, and failure points. To compound the stress, our narrator was also navigating a formal medical accommodation process for a work-from-home setup, necessitated by a car accident and recent back surgery. An ergonomic office setup had been promised, but never fully materialized, making their home environment, ironically, the safer bet. They were being stretched thin, managing a medical crisis, while simultaneously being expected to absorb several critical, undocumented handoffs at once. They could see why the company was doing it. A manual, person-dependent reporting environment, key people leaving, and they were the default landing zone. The better they documented, the readier they looked, even as the documentation itself highlighted how utterly unprepared this transition truly was. Our narrator realized this wasn't a role expansion. It was a staffing problem being pushed squarely onto one person. They weren't going to be a hero. They certainly weren't going to absorb the blame for a transition that should have been staffed months ago. Their strategy was boring, but brilliantly defensive. Instead of saying, I can't, they started asking pointed questions. Define the minimum transition target. What can I reperform independently? What requires review and sign-off? Who owns the unresolved pieces? And critically, what gets paused while this is the priority? No unpaid overtime, no heroics, no becoming the fall guy. This wasn't about blowing anything up or rage quitting. It was about methodical self-preservation. Our narrator understood that this job, if it had remained the job they were actually hired for, would have been good, but the actual job had become an untenable situation. So without fanfare, they began seriously job hunting, preparing for their exit. The win, in this scenario, wasn't a courtroom victory or a grand negotiation. It was the quiet, determined act of reclaiming agency, refusing to be exploited, and prioritizing personal well-being over corporate neglect. Turns out, sometimes the biggest win is recognizing a bad deal and walking away with your dignity and your job prospects intact. That's the verdict on today's case. Drop your thoughts in the comments. Was justice served? Make sure to subscribe so you never miss a filing.